In nature, a tiny rat can give the mighty elephant the scares. This lets us know that everyone and everything, no matter how big, can be intimidated. If you know what someone or something fears, you can control them, and this is true even for cartel bosses. Those whose livelihood have put the most primal of fear in the hearts of everyone around them. Except one, the man you see on the screen is as bad and as legendary as he appears to be. I imagine that cartel soldiers and sicarios tell stories about his exploits over a fire on a Halloween night. So gather around this fire to your viewers and let me tell you about why everyone feared El Marino Loco. El Marino Local was a former military personnel named Eric Morales. With era he served in the Mexican Armed Forces, also known as the Marines, receiving wide acclaim and criticism for his methods in capturing drug traffickers and other notorious cartels. I acquired several nicknames in the military, including El Martillo, Mr. Thor, and with the Hammer and the Crazy Marine. He seemed to like the name Thor in particular, as he always carried a small mallet in his tactical vest. These names were not just nicknames, they were used to describe his personality and ruthless way of operation whenever he was on official assignments. While many of his activities as the leader of a special anti-truck squad in Mexico are known and widely broadcasted, there's little to no detail about his private life or family history that is made to public. An exciting part of his work is that his face as seen in this video is hidden from the public. He keeps his face behind a hood during operations. And even when sharing videos on his social network, as an infantry soldier, El Marino Loco served in the Secretary of the Navy. He worked to defend Mexico and the U.S. by extension, in his war against corruption, crime, homicide and drug cartels. Damn, he was a god-enabled uniform. However, capturing drug traffickers wasn't enough for him. He also made a spectacle of the offenders and reduced the validity of organized crimes. While added, El Marino Loco was more than a force to reckon with, arrayed against drug cartel hitman and plaza bosses. He made a sport out of hunting top cartel bosses. He was also known for always carrying a meat tenderizer to his operations, which he often used to beat criminals up for cartel groups, whose pride and dignity is rooted in their illegal work. El Marino Loco's actions enraged them. Some of his popular methods of operation involved dressing captured drug traffickers in women's clothing like underwear and lingerie. He often painted their lips and made them verbally admit that they were ours, who head under heavy arms to perpetrate evil on most of his operations. He never stopped at seizing the drug traffickers and their properties. He beat them up and off them, made them to kiss each other for a cartel boss, taking a meat tenderizer to the mouth, may be more merciful than taking his own sicario's mouth while dressed in gowns. This they couldn't take. El Marino Loco knew where it hurt them, and he applied pressure on a number of occasions. He broadcasted operational videos, which he recorded himself on social networks, making comedic scenes out of the targets he captured with his team. El Marino Loco was arguably one of the first viral characters on the network related to the world of drug trafficking. He was seen in various videos, breaking the rules of his work and being unapologetic about it. It was said of him on many accounts that he abused his power and authority, though his methods were described as unorthodox and often unlawful. Amarillo used his unique ways to crawl into the skins of the drug boards to terror and still got the job done, and for that, he received lots of applause. If you still don't get it, let me describe some of his craziest acts. Whenever El Marino Loco and his team went out for raids, he proudly shared their operations on social media. He was once caught on video giving live updates online and saying, "You know how I work. I am not going there to take prisoners often." He challenged the drug traffickers to confrontations because he believed in his unreality method of serving justice. The House of Silvestre, the alleged leader of the Gulf cartel in the city of Tampico, which was well known as a chive, was one of the several drug trafficking leaders' home. El Marino and his gang raided. Now, let me share a little backstory about the Gulf cartel. That would, wow, you and give a little insight into their operations and why El Marino Loco's victory over them was a huge feat in 2015. The Gulf cartel was a Mexican drug trafficking, money laundering, and organized crime syndicate operating in Mexico. The organization was mainly composed of Colombia drug traffickers, who were members of the Norte del Valle cartel, Mexican drug traffickers, the Gulf Cartels. Main customers were organizations worldwide that smuggled drugs into the United States, supplying them at both retail prices or both. Founded in the late 1980s, by Mexican-born, Ocl Cardenas Guillen. It was assassinated in 1989. The group has historically been involved in organized crime and they were well known. How brave must El Marino Loco have been for him to have raided the ruling leader of the cartel and his household in 2015, it must have been beyond the call of duty. No Logo did not only raid a Chivas house, confiscated his properties, destroyed some of those properties and reportedly poured away the ashes of El Chaves' father, an action that earned him great intent within the cartel world in Mexico while still raiding the leader's property. Elino Loco found a photograph of El Chaves' father, drew on the commemoration picture and left a calling card behind as a warning. Boo boy. Everybody was curious as superiors, the cartel's gangs plazas everybody. As a result of his actions, the Gulf Cartel wrote, knocked them insiders and pasted them on walls, throughout different parts of Tamaulipas in case you are curious, about what Norco men says, are criminal groups. Use them to justify their crimes and send threats to rival groups, police, politicians and business people. In the message, he was publicly accused of corruption, receiving bribes, and stealing their weapons. Well, they did not stop there. They placed a 5 million pesos offer for anyone who'd been to vulture information about Marino Loco or even capture him. Gosh, such a huge amount. For one head, Marino was indeed a big troublemaker. He walked the earth as though it belonged to him and brought nemesis to those who deserved it. But did they deserve this humiliation and punishment? He meted out to the plaza bosses. Let's check out one of the infamous acts he perpetrated against Elimido, another drug cartel leader in Temple. The Mexican Marines led by Marino Loco raided the cartel leader's house and dressed him and all his subordinates in women's lingerie, even caused them to kiss each other as he recorded and shared the videos online. As usual, the pictures made waves on the internet and started up a lot of controversies. In the same operation, El Marino Loco and his comrades discovered in confiscated mini weapons caches acquired through illegal means, buried in drums throughout the property. Julian Manuel Moisa Salinas of the Gulf Cartel, better known as Commander Bull, was one of the prominent enemies El Marino Loco drew to himself after attacking his cartel, at one of the most unforgettable manners. Commander Bulls who were never to forgive the wrongdoings that El Marino Loco committed against the members of his cartelino Loco pierced the tails of lions. How hard did they bite? When he was shot by members of the Mexican army in Reynosa. The number of cartels he brought down in the number of drug lords that lost their lives. At all of El Marino's operations are unreported. In addition to arrests and seizures of drugs, weapons and cash, El Marino Loco's team was involved in several important and successful investigations. It is also a known fact that he seldom fails whenever he is on the lookout for targets. El Marino and his team's work during the frontal attack on the Gulf Cartel in Tampico at the time helped the Mexican authorities develop much of the intelligence still used by Mexico's federal and state police agencies to target the cartel's regional structure today, despite his higher-ups pulling him out of the investigation for questionable reasons. The groundwork laid by his team allowed state and federal authorities to trace key figures including Celestro Rodriguez, Luis Arbano, El Cumbias Chavez, Marco Antonio R2, Chevy's brother, who had succeeded him as leader, amongst many others who were arrested, even after his supposed dismissal from the Navy. A man who gets the job done without care for the methods or process. Who wouldn't fear such a man after his operation on the Gulf Cartel? El Marino Loco was pulled out of the Mexican armed forces, although his whereabouts are unknown today. Several theories could explain what happened to him. A report on the U.S. portal stated he might have been fired from the Navy due to corruption and illegal activities. Meanwhile, some witnesses confirm Orlis is still active and has even created his anti-drug group to operate in hiding. This conspiracy is supported by the fact that drug traffickers have been arrested in Michoacan dressed in women's underwear, a style only practiced by El Marino Loco and his team. While El Marino Loco's era of kicking doors down and dressing